Hello and welcome to Move the Line, presented by 4for4.com. Betting subscription at 4for4 is the only resource you will need for a profitable NFL season. If you're looking to play fantasy, best ball, or bet on any sport or market, 4for4.com is what you need this season. Ryan Noonan back, excited to continue our divisional preview series. Training camps opening around the league. We're going to start to get more news. I think it'll shape some stuff in the prop market, maybe in the futures market. Looking to put a bow on the AFC today with Connor Allen. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, not a whole lot. I think that this is an interesting division because we've gone through a couple of heavy hitters, a couple of big boys, and now we're at a spot where I don't know. I mean, we'll go through each team, but there's a lot of question marks to think about all these teams.
Probably more questions than answers for sure. So if you want to check out any of the other ones we've done, like I said, this is the last of the AFC. So we have 3 in the bag already. Move the Line wherever you listen to podcasts. 4for4 bets on the YouTube channel if you want to see our faces as we talk through that. Yeah, I'm excited, man. We're feeling here. Like, part of it for me too is like we're on the other side of like major golf season. We're like down the home stretch. That's barely hanging on. So I'm like, duplicity of my attention is starting to wane, and it is feeling like football season. So I'm excited. So all right, let's jump right into it. From a scheduling standpoint, the AFC South they get to play each other. That's a huge edge. They're also playing the AFC West and the NFC West. Texans are your defending champs. They have the hardest schedule of the division. It is the 7th most difficult schedule in terms of strength of schedule with win totals. They are 35-1 to win the Super Bowl. To win the AFC, 16-1 on DraftKings. They are plus 110 on FanDuel to win this division. Win total pretty flat juice-wise, sitting around 9.5. They are minus 130 to make the playoffs. You can bet them at plus 125 to miss. Fairly straightforward handicap for this team, in my opinion. Connor, I mean, great defense. It comes down to, can they protect CJ Stroud long enough to let him work down the field? What do you got on the Texans?
Yeah, I think that's basically where I'm at with them, because right now our offensive line guy, Justin Edwards, has them at 31st. They did a full refresh along the offensive line, but they didn't necessarily replace the offensive line with like good players. So it's kind of just like hoping for something new and hoping that it's different, different results here. But I think their best rated offensive lineman, I'm looking at PFF's grade, was, 39th out of 81, basically. So like just above average. And that's Titus Howard. Everyone else was average or below average along the starting offensive line, at least projected wise. So, I mean, that's a major problem. And obviously they shift offensive coordinators here to Nick Caley, which I think could make an impact as well. And then they bring in Christian Kirk. They add Jaden Higgins in the draft. They add Jalen Noel as well in the draft. So they did kind of a lot of a refresh offensively, and it could look different. I mean, there are certain offensive coordinators and, play callers that can maximize scheme and maximize offensive line play. But is that the case? Like, we just don't know. It's a major projection. So, like, I think that there's a lot of talk about how the Texans offense should be better. And CJ Stroud as a rookie was awesome, which is true. But I just don't think we know. So, like, that's a major problem, is there might be some rocky starts here in the beginning. So they're favored in 9 games. Schedule is fairly easy, again, because they're playing against their own division, which is pretty bad for the most part. But I don't know. I just have a tough time laying it here, or like betting them to win the division, just because, yes, they're probably the best, but I mean, we'll get to it with other teams, but I think that there's like scenarios where they come in second and they still win like, 8 or 9 games, and the offensive line just doesn't come together, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the unique 3 draw for them is actually pretty tough. If you look at like the divisions that they're grabbing, they're getting kind of the teams that have, or divisions that have like kind of one clear top team. Like they have to go to Baltimore, where everyone else, that shakes out. Again, like the Jags have to go to Cincinnati. But like the Baltimore, I think we feel like is the clear winner in that one. They get the Bills, right? So having to play against the AFC East, the Bills draw, I think, is by far the most significant, right? So they get that one. And then they play against the NFC South, and they get Tampa, right? So whereas Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, those are easier draws for the rest of the division here. So that is kind of the tougher draw. PFF had some really good stuff too. Like the 2023, the rookie version of CJ Stroud, who was electric, he was below average on non-deep ball in both of his first 2 seasons. He's really been like a lot of his stuff has just been the ability to make splash plays deep down the field. No Tank Dell hurts a little bit, but again, like you said, like Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel could, help there. And I think we could actually see a whole nother level of, I don't know. I think that there's like a whole nother level of what we could see there on the perimeter with Nico Collins. I think he's really exciting, but like, can they protect him? Because it seems like, he's just kind of middling when it becomes, the singles and doubles. He needs to hit the home runs. They need to be able to keep him upright. So like you said, they threw a lot at the wall of the offensive line. It's just a matter of, does any of it stick? Does anyone emerge? Can anyone, can that unit kind of gel when there's so much turnover? Defensively, they're great. I mean, they probably have the best edge duo in the league. It's an elite secondary. Those are 2 places you want to be strong at. And they very much are. So it does feel like they are the best team clearly in the division. But not necessarily, I still don't necessarily think that this is like an actual AFC contender. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would rely on the defense. Like for them to be a contender, the defense has to be good, and then the O-line has to be average. All the weapons have to come together. Like Jaden Higgins probably has to be good, or Christian Kirk has to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And then Joe Mixon right now started, was in a walking boot in the offseason, then starts training camp on the NFI list. So, like, I mean, they signed Nick Chubb, so obviously I think there's some, I don't know, viable backups there, but like Mixon was seeing a ton of work. So I don't know. Like, I think that's the bull case for them is like the offense comes together and plays pretty well. And then they can maybe they can win a playoff game, but like, I really just don't see much more upside beyond that.
Yeah. Running back, what happened last year, basically, right? Where they absolutely whitewashed the Chargers and then kind of got de-pantsed by significantly better, Chiefs team in Kansas City. Like something like that feels the same. Again, unless there is another level to CJ Stroud, which is very possible, and continuity and health becomes, just become a team that just stays healthy, then there's maybe a chance for them to be a little bit better. But with how strong this conference is, I just don't feel like they're necessarily one of the top 2 or 3 teams that's going to take a massive jump. Jacksonville's next. Strength of schedule is significantly easier. It's one of the easier in the leagues. 90-1 to win the Super Bowl on Caesars, 45 to 1 to win the AFC. You can get them at plus 310 on Caesars to win the division. On the win total, slightly juiced to the over at 7.5. They are plus 180 to make the playoffs. You can lay minus 200 to miss the playoffs. There is, it's basically all new down in Duval. Feels like a pretty decent range of outcomes, but it's again the Trevor Lawrence discussion that we were going to have every year. It feels like he's been around forever. Connor, he's 25 years old. So still, on the younger side, there's a lot to like here if you want to be on the bullish side. Schedule early is tough, but it gets a little bit softer late. What are your thoughts here on Jacksonville?
Yeah, I honestly think that they're similar to Texans in a sense where the offensive line is not ranked very well. I mean, one of the bottom 3, again, according to Justin Edwards stuff. But, when you add a guy like Travis Hunter, you bring in Liam Cohen. Like, I don't think that those things can be understated or, overstated. Like, we're really at a point where I think Liam Cohen showed last year that he's like probably one of the, the up and coming coaches that can maximize talent, that can make the most out of very little. It's just, what can you do with the offensive line? Because when you have Brian Thomas, when you have Travis Hunter, you can do a lot with that. It's just a matter of, can they run the ball with whether it's ETN, they drafted Bashal Tootin, they still have Tank Bigsby. And then can the offensive line hold up and let Travis Hunter and let Brian Thomas Jr. run deep? Because I have concerns on that front, but the upside is massive. Like, I think that, I don't know how much Travis Hunter is going to play on defense. I think that he probably plays majority of snaps on offense, probably is not blocking most of the time. Like, I think you just do it enough so that it's not an automatic tell, but like, he shouldn't be blocking more than like, I don't know, 5-10 snaps a game, to be honest. Like, that's like anything more than that.
Put on some weight.
Has he?
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Well, he can block. I'm just saying, like, why he would waste his energy. Like, just put him, and then defensively, I would bet he's probably used a good amount. And they're going to, I mean, I think the Jags need as much help as they can. Like, would you rather have like a kind of tired Travis Hunter out there, or I don't know, one of their 3rd string corners, something like that? Like, probably a little bit tired Travis Hunter, I would guess.
An exhausted Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the problem too. I mean, they also, similar to the Texans in a way, like they have a great edge duo. Josh Hines Allen is elite. I think Trayvon Walker continues to kind of outproduce his underlying metrics, but he's done it 2 years in a row. Still kind of young, so it's like, what do you make of that? Can get a little bit tricky. I think they could be better against the run. The secondary I have concerns with. Jordan Lewis was a nice addition from Dallas as a slot corner, but the second perimeter corner opposite of Tyson Campbell, who's got to stay healthy, that becomes pretty tricky for them. I think the defensive coordinator change could be better for them. I think, they tried, especially early last year, tried to play a lot of, it was one of these like situations where it's like, this is my system. This is what we're running. We're going to play matchup zone. We're going to play, matchup man. And they just didn't have the horses for it. And they got exposed pretty massively right away. And then they shifted to more zone schemes later in the year. I think you're going to see more zone looks for them early in the year. I think that's better for the personnel. It just is Trevor Lawrence is their second gear. It felt like that was happening a couple of years ago. He's dealt with a lot of injuries the last couple of years, concussions and ankles, and he's playing through it. And the performance hasn't been great. Now I think has the dogs to really start to separate. If BTJ I think was electric last year. If it is going to be more offense for Travis Hunter than defense, then you got another resource and fewer excuses to get it done. So you don't have to rely on the Parker Washingtons or whoever else is behind those guys. So there's optimism there in Jacksonville. I still don't love the team. I think there's some real Liam Cohen, to your point, like kind of cracked the code on Baker back-to-back years. Like we're talking like 4,500 yards and 40 touchdown passes. So like, I don't know. I feel like there's something there. I'm not like really excited to like go and lay anything on them here, but I don't know. 3-1 feels like a decent look, or maybe over 7.5. You still fall short being 8-9 win team and, fight for the division. Cause I don't think we think anyone in this division is really running away with things here. So how would you bet Jacksonville or anything Jacksonville wise?
Yeah. I think the division look is interesting. 3-1. Like, I don't think that they're that much worse than the Texans. If they can, like their offense could legit be awesome. I think that's very possible. And so I think that's a good look. I think to your point though, like I don't want to play pretty much anything in the minus 110 or higher range on anything to do with them, because I think they're really volatile. Brian Thomas to lead the league in receiving yards, 14-1. I mean, coming into last year, we were like, oh, he's a rookie on a team with a questionable scheme, competing for targets with Christian Kirk, with I think Gabe Davis was there at that time. I don't know if there was someone else was just running routes, like just deep clearing routes. And then they also had Evan Ingram basically. So it's basically like competing for a ton of targets, and he comes out and just absolutely crushes. And then now at this point, it's just him and Travis Hunter. Like it's just him, Travis Hunter, De'Ami Brown. Like, yeah, I mean, I think he's very in play, lead the league in receiving yards. And then I think like the ultimate long shot here is like, if you think that the Jags can win the division and just like start cooking, Trevor Lawrence at MVP at 50-1 is not that bad. Oh, look, I don't think. Like, I think that like it's within his range of outcomes. I mean, again, you have to probably win 12 games. So like they have to be good. I think that's the lowest is like 11 games in like a shortened season in the last 10, 15 years for a quarterback. So they have to win 11, 12 games. Again, I think that's like top range of outcomes, but they're probably not getting there through defense, and they're probably not getting there through running the ball. So like Trevor Lawrence would have to put up, again, like Baker Mayfield stats, 4,500, 41 touchdowns. Like if he puts up 4,700 yards and 42 touchdowns and then win 12 games, he's probably at least in the running, which I think is in the range of outcomes. Again, it's not something run delay, but if we're looking to bet on the Jags, I think it's not a bad look.
It's probably the best way to do it, to be honest. Like, I think the way to approach some of these binary off-season things too, right, is kind of bet on ceiling, because the problem with the MVP thing to me is still like you're going to have Buffalo win 12, 13 games. Josh is going to be a huge part of that. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore's going to win 12, 13 games. Lamar's going to be a huge piece of it. But the ascension piece, could be interesting there too. And maybe there's better ways to do it, because the schedule, just like last year for the Jags, really difficult to start, right? Like, we haven't got to Carolina yet. I think we believe that a Carolina game at home, if you can't win that, we don't feel great about Jacksonville to begin with, but we see one-off week one wonky things to begin with anyway, right? Then at Cincinnati, Houston at home, at San Francisco, Kansas City for your first five. Then you host Seattle, then you lose a home game to the Rams because that becomes a London game. So that's a really tough opening stretch where again, things can get wonky real quick. And again, the Houston actually has a tough opening schedule as well. So there could be some like live opportunities to get better than 3-1 on Jacksonville if you're bullish. Especially if Houston gets off to, a rocky start as well. So you might not get the best number, but you might feel better about where these teams are when you get a little bit more understanding of how Liam Cohen can impact Trevor Lawrence. So,
yeah, I mean, they've had just a ton of winnable games on the stretch. I think they're after the
For
bye,
sure.
the Jags are like 3-point dogs or favorites in all but one game. So it's like, I mean, but they do have like a tougher stretch, and then it's like a really easy stretch. Tennessee twice, Jets, Colts twice. So like there's a ton of winnable games. It's just like I feel like a lot of these like look headlines are setting it because they just don't really know. Like it's just based on like whatever team ratings right now, which are I think can change drastically with teams like I think Jags, Colts, and Titans. Honestly, all could like change a lot one direction or the other pretty quick.
Yeah. Jeff in the chat, Jags first 5. I've shared this. I lost out last year in week 5 on the Jags. Last year was 17-1. I'd imagine it's probably in the same bucket. I don't have that right now, but I imagine it's probably in like the 15-20 range first 5. So
I'm seeing only 7-1, 0 wins.
Jeez.
But DK, honestly, they kind of like
That's true. They suck.
Some of these odds are a little rough. I was looking at like the division order bets of like 1-2 on this, and I'm like, these aren't even good odds. Like, I'll read you some of the ones that I was looking at that you're going to be like, this is not worth playing. It's ridiculous.
No.
So, yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. Yeah, but I mean, they have a weird schedule in terms like they have 3 sets of back-to-back road games after the bye, which isn't great, but they're all winnable games for the most part, right? Like, I mean, they get at Houston, at Denver is going to be tough in week 16, but for the most part, there's some winnable games in there. So Jags are interesting. Let's see another gear for Trevor Lawrence. All right, the Colts, 12th, kind of middle of the pack strength of schedule wise. They are 120-1 to win the Super Bowl. They are 50-1 to represent the AFC, plus 380 to win the division. Their win total also 7.5, kind of flat there, plus 215 to make the playoffs, minus 210 to miss the playoffs. Camp started. We got Anthony Richardson, Danny Dimes splitting with the ones. Probably A-Rich a little bit behind with the shoulder injury. It looked like Danny Dimes may be starting with the ones here. I have thoughts. I'm going to let you cook here a little bit on the Colts before I go. This is, I've Jeff in the chat wants to remind me I've hung my hat on pro Anthony Richardson takes the last couple of years. Maybe last year, maybe a little bit more aggressive. But let you go here first on your thoughts on the Colts.
Yeah, I think that the more that I dug into them, the more that I just kind of came around on them, like having not upside, but just like probably being fine. I mean, 10th ranked offensive line. They hired Lou Anarumo as defensive coordinator, who obviously just led a very bad defense, but I think is probably a good defensive coordinator. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think coming into
Cincinnati had so many injuries. Last year they really had so many injuries.
Like, I mean, coming into last year, like he was known as like one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, at least from my understanding, and then obviously last year was just brutal. So yeah, maybe it's injuries. I think that he still has a little bit of juice. I'll let you go talk about the defensive side, but like offensively, you'd add Tyler Warren. I think he'd be a massive weapon for him. You still have Michael Pittman, you still have Josh Downs. The problem is Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson were the 2 worst starting quarterbacks in the league with minimum like passing thresholds, essentially, like worst in terms of pass rating, everything. Like doesn't matter what it is, they were awful. And so I think Daniel Jones is probably a little bit of an upgrade from a passing standpoint. Overall, like a win-loss standpoint, I don't know if he's an upgrade at all. And that's obviously it's the most important position in sports or in all of the NFL. It's quarterback. Yeah. So that's the problem, and that's the downside here. So like if they get average quarterback play, they're probably going to win more than the 4 games that they're favored in. And I don't know. I mean, defensively, I'm interested to hear your thoughts because I think they were like average last year in EPA. I think it was like 15, something like that. But I don't know if you think that they have any upside.
They have upside. They were aggressive early in free agency. Shavarius Ward at corner. It's a massive need. I really like him. I think he's a little underrated. I've been out in San Francisco for the last couple of years. Adds, an actual corner one to the perimeter, which they desperately needed. Cam Bynum as free safety. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you like to see a lot of like box safety looks, cover one type stuff, post snap from Big Lou. So I think you'll see that Nick Cross in the box is kind of a hybrid linebacker with Cam Bynum, who's been in Minnesota, had been really good in that role last couple of years. So I think those are much needed moves at two positions that they needed a ton. Defensive line is solid. They had injuries there last year, but when they're healthy, they're really good. They were really cautious with Latu last year. They did not play him a ton. They actually had depth at edge, but they do not have that this year. And they need a big year from Latu, whose underlying stats, like he graded out really well at PFF on like a per snap basis. They need him to put up some like raw numbers, right? You need him to kind of approach, 10 plus sacks or so and just be in the backfield and be a problem all the time. So they really need that from him this year, because I think the defense can be fine. I think they're probably still, their ceiling is still probably to the top end of the middle half. Not great. Like DeForest Buckner's a baller still, with Latu taking a step up, they could be really good. Anthony Richardson is, I still think Chris Ballard is tied to him. I think they still want Anthony Richardson to win. My struggle here is I want to just be like, yeah, wave the white flag, wash my hands of my Anthony Richardson takes. I can't. Here's the thing. Here's when I'm going to start. Here's the caveat. He is undeniably bad so far in the clean pocket. That is not encouraging. If you cannot throw accurately from a clean pocket, that is a problem and doesn't typically translate well to growth. But here's the problem. We have a insane athlete who came in with no starts at Florida, right? Like that was the problem. It's like, this is a insanely inexperienced quarterback in college who played in a really wonky system and had no reps. In the last 2 years, he has taken fewer snaps than Zach Wilson, Josh Dobbs, and Desmond Ridder. So if the experience issue is a challenge for him, we still have no experience. They were really like, I don't know, they kind of played around with him last year a little bit. Like he tapped out, inexcusable, not great. But dynamic when he can stay healthy, what he can do with the offense in terms of like the ceiling. He had some great fourth quarter comebacks. We've seen his ability to run, and he avoids sacks at a pretty high rate, which I think is a good skill and can translate well. So I think that if he's healthy and shows any signs or any pulse, he is going to win the job. He might not take starter reps day one. It might end up being Daniel Jones. They want to give it an excuse, say, hey, it's a shoulder. But I still think there is upside there that we can't see. I think it's far less likely than I thought last year at this time, because we have more of a data set of him being bad in a clean pocket. But in terms of them reaching any ceiling, it's with Anthony Richardson and it's not with Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones is a team that's winning, 7 games. We know who he is. Whereas Anthony Richardson might be 5 wins, but there's a potential for them to like flirt with the division with a ceiling Anthony Richardson outcome. I think that's like a 5 to 10 percentile chance. So I'm like, again, I'm making the case for it, but I want to be realistic that I don't think that that's actually in the range of outcomes this year.
Yeah, I think the problem with the whole thing and what you said is like he's had so few reps, right? It's like just that whole line of thinking, but they're not giving him more reps. Like they're splitting reps with the ones. He might not even start to start the season. When Daniel Jones inevitably probably fails at some point, he's going to get thrown in there again after being a backup for a little bit again. And like, I can't imagine he's just going to ignite the team. Like he needed to have played the last year and just like, or last whatever couple of times and just like 2 years at this point and just like, get the shit kicked out of him, but he needed more time to do that. Like he just needed longer and longer. Now Chris Ballard's on the hot seat, Shane Steichen's on the hot seat. Like they're going to do what is ever best for them to win games. I saw a tweet again. It was just a rumor, but it was like Jim Irsay's kids like aren't, don't really like Shane Steichen that all that much, and they're not letting him. The leash is not very long basically anymore. I mean, Jim Irsay, by all accounts, was an awesome guy. From person to person, and so I don't know. I think that there's like some maybe not underrated downside, but just like desperation here for the Colts front offense and the Colts coaching staff, which is a problem when you have a quarterback who's still a bit of a project. Like in an ideal scenario, you just let him go for another 2 years or a year and a half, and you're like, okay, well, we're bad enough that we probably got a high pick and we get a new quarterback, et cetera. But I don't think that they're okay with that. I think that's just like they got to win to save their jobs. So I think that's a problem for this Colts team. So that's kind of what I go back and forth on. Like I don't disagree that there's probably some upside there. Chris Ballard actually came out and said yesterday and was like, You saw, like, are people mad with Sam Darnold? Are people mad with Baker Mayfield, even after a slow start to their careers? Like, we haven't given up on him yet, et cetera. But between that, him giving up on his team last year, like, there was rumors about him just, like, not taking meetings seriously. Like, I don't know, man. I really struggle with this. I mean, the good news is he's healthy. I thought he was going to miss part of training camp.
For
If he
sure. He
did,
was
I
done.
mean, that's like over. That's just, it's, he's a backup at this point next year somewhere else.
Yeah. If I'm the Steelers, like, dude, like, this is, that's a guy I'm going after, right? He's going to, cost you very little to trade for at this point. Or, I don't know. I just think that that's the type of, team that doesn't have a long-term answer at the position, who was trying to figure out something post Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's a guy I want to take a chance on and just kind of see what could happen. You never know.
What they need to do is, so Adam pointed out here, Tyler Warren season, what they need to do is put Tyler Warren in a quarterback more and running back, and just like go crazy, like run some like bullshit college offense and just like do some crazy shit with Tyler Warren, because he's awesome. I think that was a great pick by them, and they still have like good offensive players. They just need to like find ways to get them the ball, because like Pittman's not bad. I mean, I don't think I think you're a Michael Pittman guy more than I am, but I enjoyed.
He was hurt last year too. He wasn't. He was
injured, right? And he was like banged
He's
up.
not a wide receiver one. He's not a top level explosive complete alpha, but he's, I think, a good football player. But hey, these things also are harder when you don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball to you when you're open. And that's something that Anthony Richardson struggled with last year.
Yeah.
Flacco also, I think, fell off a cliff. We thought he was, it wasn't what we saw in Cleveland for sure. So yeah, Jeff, I'm loyal, man. Like, okay, I will ride with my guys. I hope my pessimism compared to last year is coming through a little bit. I think it's going to get a lot harder for him, but if I'm a franchise moving forward, like, that's the type of talent you want to bet on. And Connor makes great points referencing Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Those guys actually showed it in college and had actual reps, like a lot of reps, right? Like Anthony Richardson had no reps in a really, really, really weird type of, scheme in Florida. So probably doesn't happen for Anthony Richardson in Indy, but I wouldn't write him off of having an opportunity to be in a league. Or let's get him on one of, like, I don't know, XFL, and just watch him just dominate XFL. Like, he's running for like 80 yards a game and trucking dudes. I mean, he's an insane athlete.
I would love to see him just like as a backup in like Baltimore or something, and learn from like Lamar and like how to actually throw the ball, a little bit, but then just like use him, as a backup, and it'd be fun when he comes in. Because I think that Monken could probably figure some stuff out with him pretty quick. Also, Adam's point here, no way should Indy be favored at home versus healthy Miami. I kind of agree. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Indy just like bullies them up front and like runs the ball well and like can get pressure on them. But like, I think Miami's a better team.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty close. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I worry about Miami's secondary. The problem is Indy a team built in week one to take advantage of weak secondary? I'm not sure.
Right. Definitely not.
All right, we'll shift last to the Titans here. They are 230 to 1 to win the Super Bowl, 100 to represent the AFC, 9-1 to win the division. Win total juice to the over at 5.5. They are plus 4.25 to make the playoffs, minus 600 to miss. Year 2 of the Brian Callahan, Denard Wilson regime. This time, first pick, Cam Ward at quarterback. Hoping they can get some better answers and maybe protect their number 1 pick better than they did last year with Will Levis and the assortment of quarterbacks there in Tennessee. Connor, what are your thoughts on the Titans?
Yeah, I think their offensive line play is going to be interesting. We have them at 22nd. I think that's about right. I think an average unit could be okay here, but I think Cam Ward just changes the dynamic of this team like a lot. But Will Levis was just kind of like, I don't want to say dead on like, arrival, but kind of like we knew pretty quick that he just wasn't the answer. Whereas Cam Ward kind of reminded me a little bit of Deshaun Watson, but with like a stronger arm in college, just like a playmaker, extended plays really well, like doesn't really like run, but like can move essentially. So like, I think he just reminded me a lot of Deshaun Watson back when he was, good in college, and like even his first 2 years or so in Houston, I think were somewhat comparable. And so now, he has Calvin Ridley still. They have a decent backfield with Pollard and Tajay Spears. They drafted Alec Iomanor as well. They have Van Jefferson, Tyler Lockett. Like, I don't know. I think that this team, like, I'm not. They're going to win some games that they shouldn't. They're going to win some games that they shouldn't for sure. And it would not surprise me at all if they're better than the Colts. They will finish with more wins than the Colts. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they compete with the Jags. If the Jags do not don't figure out their whole line, or maybe their defense isn't playing as well. Like, I don't know. I think that it's just like hard to quantify how much a new quarterback can change things very quickly. It's almost like, I mean, I don't think that Washington had a very good team last year with Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels came in and played incredible and immediately changed the direction and the team and the franchise and everything. Like, I don't think that Tennessee is that much worse than what Washington had last year, is my point. And so, yeah, I don't think Cam Ward's on the same level of prospect as Jaden Daniels, but it's like hindsight analysis. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's certainly within Cam Ward's range of outcomes to come in and just be a baller from day one, and for the Titans to be like fine, like a 500 team. That wouldn't be surprising at all.
Yeah. I worry a little bit about the offensive line. They invested in it, which is good to see, but I'm not sure that I feel great about Dan Moore. I mean, the Dan Moore is like a good 1 year stopgap. It was a pretty egregious contract for a guy that's not been very good for most of his career. Yeah, I worry about the offensive weapons outside of Calvin Ridley. Let's see in terms of like what's left of Tyler Lockett at this point. I'm not quite sure. Not as bullish. And the defense, I think, just got worse. I don't think it was a really good unit to begin with. They kind of like, I don't know, spun the wheel and brought in bodies to replace better bodies that left. They need L'Jarius need to be better and healthy. He really struggled last year. The guys around him at corner are not particularly strong. I don't feel great about. So I worry about the secondary. So I don't know. I feel like this is a 5-6 win football team, even in the encouraging Cam Ward situation. Maybe he can elevate, and maybe we get like really takes a step forward. The run game is really good, and they become healthy again. We have Callahan's, and they're really good at developing offensive linemen. You got Skoronski in the second year, and maybe there's something there that I'm not seeing. But schedules is okay, but I don't know that they're. How many games are they favored in? They're probably not favored in many at all, right?
Two.
Okay.
More than the Saints, I think. More than the They're favored at they're favored at home 3.5 against the Saints, for whatever that says about the Saints.
Yeah, week 17, you need that one.
Yeah,
thrilling week 17 game. Woo.
Yeah. Oh God, that is rough. Yeah, I mean, this start just like at Denver, 7.5 point dogs, against the Rams, 5.5 point dogs. Indy -1, 1.5 point favorites. At Houston, 6 point dogs. At Arizona, 5.5 point dogs. At the Raiders, 3 point dogs. Like it's pretty tough before the bye to some extent. So
sure.
And especially week one at Denver. I mean, if Cam Ward plays even decent, that's like a win for the Titans, because that is just, I can't imagine much tougher week one game for a rookie, to be honest.
Yeah, that was one of those early lines that jumped pretty quickly as soon as week one lines got posted, and they got through the key number pretty quickly, because I think it opened at like 6.5 or something like that, and then just got kind of mushed right away. So yeah, I don't know. I'm less bullish, and maybe it just like Cam Ward, maybe he's a dude, right? And if Cam Ward's a dude, then you're right. This team is probably 7-8 wins. But I still think that's
he has to be.
He has to be, right? So that's kind of the only bull case scenario there. Because I think the defense is a below average unit with not a lot of like pass rush chops. Like when your best pass rusher is a big guy from the interior of the defensive line, and Jeffrey Simmons, it's not great. It's nice. It's like supplementary when you have that, and that can really help an edge rusher. It gets harder to defend, but when you're like really trying to lean on that guy being your alpha, that's tough. I don't see anyone sniffing 10 sacks on this team, which is pretty tough. So and then again, when you don't have the dogs in the back end to kind of lock it down either, that becomes a kind of a bad combination. So yeah, I don't think they're the worst team in the league necessarily. Again, unless Cam Ward's not the dude, and something happens there pretty quickly, we'll find out. It's not going to be Will Levis behind him now, because Levis is injured. Who's our backup and behind? Oh, Brandon Allen, Tim Boyle.
Yeah,
okay, that's right.
Do you see that
Titans clip? Yeah, the clip was funny. Yeah,
they were getting so pissed. Like, are you happy with the quarterback room? I mean, those guys suck. Why were they mad about that? Like, those guys are terrible.
Why can the guy not ask the question? Like, He's a reporter. He's covering the team. Why would he not ask the question? You just lost your backup. Are you comfortable with the backups you have? Like, so weird.
Your boy Vrabel was giving Ben Volin or whatever a real hard time yesterday.
I could not be more excited about the Mike Vrabel era. I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited. I mean, he was a great player for us. Just kind of, he's a Patriot from that era. Like, he represented that team, those teams at that time. And he's great. I mean, Mayo was so bad in the press conferences last year. He was brutal. Like, just kind of lying to the media, trying to manipulate the media. Like, you can't do that. You're not Belichick. You don't have, the chops to go ahead and do that. And now it's just kind of refreshing. So, yeah, Tennessee, I think, is going to miss him. I think they still do, because he was just consistently got that team to a spot that they probably shouldn't have been based on the roster. So we'll see if Brian Callahan can do more of the same. So, all right, best way to bet the division. What do you think here?
See, I was looking at like alternative ways of like trying to figure out like the exact 1-2 combos basically of this. Like, maybe if the Texans fell, but just the odds, like, I don't know if it's like a DraftKings thing or like what the problem is here. Because so I was thinking like, oh, Jags Titans or Jags Colts. Like, Jags Colts is like 8-1. That's not that good. Like, that basically requires CJ Stroud getting hurt or like both the Jags and the Colts being awesome. I don't like that at all. No. I mean, Texans, I honestly think that the better play might just be like Texans Jags or Texans Colts, because that's plus 450 and plus 650. And that might make sense, because like the Texans are still the best team.
Yeah.
But like, you're just not getting enough juice for putting the Jags or Colts like ahead of them, to be honest, in the market right now.
No. Yeah.
Or division bets, just to bet on Jags or Colts to win the division, I think.
Yeah. Jags.
Probably Jags. Like, yeah. I don't know if, yeah, Colts, I just have no faith in Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. So I just can't get there with them. So probably Jags.
We're talking about, like the most, like you said, the most important position in sports. We're talking about a high pedigree 25-year-old quarterback who's shown that he can be the dude that could ascend versus, the Anthony Richardson ascension, which is very unlikely. And we know what Daniel Jones is at this point, right? So that becomes very clear that it's then who knows, right? Travis Hunter just might be like special instantly, right? And then even if he's only contributing 30% of the snaps on the defensive side, right? If you can put him in on, clear passing downs and you can, lock up the other side, Tyson Campbell stays healthy, that team can be interesting defensively, right? Good linebacking core. Eric Murray's in for safety. It's better. It's a better unit if the coordinator can get more out of them than what they did last year. So Jags will probably be the way to go, 3-1 if you're looking for a little bit of a longer shot and you're not really bullish on Stroud and everything going on in Houston. So if you are, then probably plus 110 to win the division, if that's your thing, is probably okay too. But that's not how I want to attack futures.
Yeah, the short, like, I don't even know if they're not technically favorites, but like the short odds ones where like the team is not really like complete are not my favorite bets. Like I think we talked about maybe the Ravens being a decent look at like minus 150. I mean, they're just like a complete team. They're an awesome team that has, like, barring Lamar getting injured, they could suffer other injuries and probably still be fine and still win the division, still be the best. This Texans team is, I mean, there's legitimate outs even with the guys that they have that for them to not be the best team in this division.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going to put you in the spot for your AFC stuff. Maybe we'll recap that. We'll put that as a recap section for the end of our shows, or maybe we'll give that a separate show because that puts a bow on the AFC. So I know I didn't actually prepare it either, but I just was thinking about it. Like, hey, that's it. But I still think of the bank. I mean, I was on the Ravens. I think the Ravens are, might be my Super Bowl pick, to be honest. I think they're that good.
It's funny. The more that I look at futures, like I'm prepping for like other shows where they're always asking like, who are you going to pick in the Super Bowl? Are you going to pick the AFC, NFC, et cetera? Like the AFC has 3 awesome contenders, like the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, and then a couple other like, scrappy ones. We talked about the Broncos. We talked about, again, maybe the Patriots making ascension, maybe the Chargers are somewhat in play, et cetera. Like there's other teams that I think can like maybe would be like a top 3 team in the NFC. And then the NFC is just like the Eagles, the Lions got worse. the Niners have a really easy schedule, but aren't that good of a team. Like there's like way more uncertainty. So I think there's a ton of value in the NFC of like long shots or just like a random team coming out of nowhere to like make a run to the NFC Championship. I don't think would be that surprising.
Yeah. There's a team that I think is really good. It was in the playoffs last year, almost beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. And I think they're going to be they're going to be really good again. So we'll get there. We'll start next week with our NFC. So again, appreciate everyone hanging out with us. 444.com/plans to get the betting subs where you want to be. Move the line wherever you listen to podcasts. 444 bets on the YouTube channel. Subscribe so you don't miss a show. Connor and I will be back again next week with the start of our NFC preview. So appreciate everyone hanging out with us. For Connor, I'm Ryan. We just did the whole show with me as Connor Allen and you as Ryan Noonan, by the way.
Are you serious? I didn't even notice that. That's crazy.
I love that for us.
That's great.
We'll see y'all next time. Thanks, everybody.